Hello, and welcome to my very first YouTube video. I thought today that I would talk about my process a bit because it's changed a lot recently, and I'm kind of working in this really weird automatic painting sort of way. Until now, I worked in a very concept based way that was just very planned and structured. Um, the paintings, I more kind of received images almost fully made. Like the paintings in my head the finished product would be very similar to the image that I had in my head. Um, but recently that changed because I'm in the early stages of doing this 365-degree day challenge, and a few weeks ago I just ran out of ideas. Like the well ran dry, and I just still had to keep painting because I'm just doing this thing. And it came down to, I just needed to make a painting, even if it was a bad painting. I just needed to paint to get something out to produce work. So I just started sitting down with paint and kind of moving it around and making a mess, and with no sort of outcome. And um, so you can see here in this video, this is a really small piece on watercolor paper, and I just kind of started by putting paint down. What I found is that, like, the more I make a mess and I just get terrified, I have to like dive into just this mess. And then it's almost like a game to try to figure out how to get yourself out of it. Um, that's sort of the challenge, and I find it's a way a harder way to make art. It's way more challenging. It's way more exciting, because you just every time you just are terrified and you think you're gonna fail the entire time. Um, so this painting kind of started with, I just had this idea to use olive. I don't really paint with this color. Here I'm using Holbein Acryla mostly. I think this entire painting is Holbein Acryla. I'm applying the paint straight to the paper from the tube, and just anything to create a mess, basically. I think initially, like, I had no idea what I was doing, but then I was like, well, maybe this is a human form. And so I started, at this point, I was like, well, I'm just going to paint a bunch of eyes. But I just still did not have a really strong idea at this point. I was just, okay, well, I'll just stick a bunch of eyes on it. Which is maybe like a signature default move that I do when I don't know what to do. Just put some eyes on it, or put a smiley face or something on it. It'll be fine. But it takes me a while to kind of come up with the ideas. And then I thought, like, at this stage I was like, oh, well, maybe this is an arm. Like, I was going to flesh out body parts. I kind of have this abstract figurative body that I was kind of starting to highlight. So you can see what I'm doing here. And now I'm adding hair. So again, I thought this was going to be a figure or two figures or some kind of deconstructed body. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. I think that that's really important, that it flows kind of out of you. Like, hey, put orange there, and you just don't question it. Just let the art kind of do its job and move from outside your body into your body and out through your hand. Don't let your brain, when you really activate your brain and stuff, you can get to really second guess yourself. And um, for me, that just kills me because I will do that forever, and then I can't get anything done, and I'll start to doubt myself. And it's better if I just kind of keep my brain just on autopilot when I make these paintings. Um, I'm much happier, is what I found, because when you work in this way, you don't already have an image, so just there's no mistake really to be had. Um, it's freeing. I mean, every single painting, there's points where I just really want to give up, and I think I've ruined it, and it's terrible, and I just really have to work to push through and to keep making art, and that's just how it goes. Here you can see I'm sort of fleshing out the eyeballs. I kind of drew them in this way that like they're almost stretched, because I thought maybe there was going to be a speed element. I think it's supposed to be like a cartoon eyeball, like it's going fast. Like in the cartoons, when they move fast and their eyeballs kind of stretch out, or their bodies sort of stretch out, or I love Looney Tunes and like Tex Avery and Golden Era, Disney. I've been looking at a lot of Mary Poe lately. Sort of dry brushing techniques, and just basically trying to work in any way that isn't familiar and isn't comfortable. Like working with more transparent paint, which is something I 100% would have avoided before, but I just think it had something really nice, like the way you can see the darker green underneath that pink. It just adds a flavor, a new flavor, a surprise, sort of a concealing, revealing element to the work, where you're seeing you're seeing the layers. My husband said these look like seed pods. He thought they were seed pods, which I love as well. They're just kind of a decorative element. I'm probably more of a decorator than an actual painter. The thing about painting is it's very forgiving. You can always paint over something. I mean, it's a pain in the ass because it's so much work. That's what I cling to, is like the time. I have a lot of fear. When I was in art school, I was so poor, and for so long after art school, I was so poor, and supplies were so expensive. Like a tube of paint was so expensive, and you were kind of forced to work really big. So I just developed so much fear around wasting supplies because I just was broke too. So I think some of that's still in there, of, not wanting to waste the time, or not wanting to, waste the the cost of the supplies when you can't really afford to make more. Sometimes I just use a paper towel and I just smear things around. That's a new thing too. Just trying to do new types of mark making that are just basically cause me to mess things up. The bigger mess I make, I find that the ultimately the better it comes out in the end. with this orange, it was just, I thought the orange would look good with the palette, with the color that was going on. Yeah, so at some point here, I guess I hadn't decided if it was trees yet, because I'm still outlining. I think I did, yeah, like this was going to be an arm. You can sort of see it's like fingers, and there's an elbow there. But I did kind of put that leafy blue line. The dog is snorting. I feel like the audio on this is not going to be amazing because I don't have a mic, but we'll just all have to get past that. Yeah, and then I started doing these leafy structures, and then I think that's when I was hit with like, oh, okay, this is a tree. And these are like, there's some kind of Alice in Wonderland cat in the hat aspect. This is like you're looking into a forest and seeing eyes coming back at you. And I think, yeah, I think this is about like the moment that I was like, oh, okay, now I'm starting to see. The painting is starting to happen now. But you can see I had to work for a long time for that to kind of start to come together. So, it's like that, this is all sped up, so who knows how long. And then this is edited because you kind of have to wait for stuff to dry in between too, especially where it's such a small painting. It was a larger painting, you can kind of change where you're working. Sometimes you can work in one corner while something else is drying or whatever, but yeah, so at this point, it was like, oh, okay, this is a tree. So I start moving this pink paint around to kind of just form it into a tree. Sometimes the amount of pink paint or paint in general that gets moved around is based on how much just ends up on the paper. If I squeeze out a lot, again, like just not wanting any waste because I'm just cheap about it. It's like, well, I guess this painting is going to be a lot more pink because I squirted out too much pink paint. Oh my God. I don't know if it's picking up on the mic. My dog is like next to me and she's just like gently snoring. So here I'm kind of forming the grain of the wood or like the bark. This line style is something I figured out really recently. I've been using these rigger brushes for a long time. My husband uses them for outlining his work, and I don't know, I've just kind of over time used them more and more, but very recently I sort of figured out that I can use the brush. I can kind of do this sort of more calligraphic line quality of, pushing the brush down, and I don't know, it's just a really nice technique. I was recently listening to an interview with Inga Essenhai, whose work I love, and I followed her career, I don't know, for 18 years now or something. But one of the biggest influences on her work is the fact that she uses a rigger brush as well, which makes a lot of sense. I never considered it at all, but it makes a lot of sense now that I know it, just because the fluidity of the lines that she does. The rigger just lends to that because it's It's just so long. Oh my God, she's snoring so loud, y'all. She's been outside and it's hot, and now she's like crashed out next to me. She is with me pretty much every moment that we're both awake. So she, like, I was recording this and then she started crying at the door because she couldn't handle the fact that she was not in here with me. I just love how this wood grain came out. I love how, again, like talking about the transparency, then when you kind of start to outline, like you make this big mess and then you outline it and then the outline becomes the structure. So it's like this balance of having this looseness, having this messiness, but then what happens when you kind of contain it with a line? It takes the abstract quality of the work and it turns it more into something graphic or something illustrative, which I love. I think my work is always kind of finding a balance between abstractness or like fine artness. I never want. There's always like a playful element. There's always some sort of connection to comics or cartoons, or I think, or that's what I'm trying to achieve. I think it makes it less serious. I don't want to make. I don't want to be like a serious artist. I want to make work that's really fun to look at. I think that there's a something childish and just fun. I think too much of the art world takes itself too seriously. It's just fucking art, dude. It's not. We're not saving lives. It's supposed to be fun, right? I mean, we think like kids don't have any trouble making art. They make amazing art. They're just having fun. Like at some point we're taught like that's not okay. You have to make art to be serious, or we want to be taken seriously or something. Or to have people think we're smart. I think that's a driving force sometimes. To show off or the technique or whatever it is. I mean, at the end of the day, like, what happened to play? What happened to making art because it's fun to make art? So at this point in the painting, I got more olive paint out and I was going to make more leaves, like these green leaves, like kind of just to be textural or something, but the paint was just too transparent. It just wasn't. I mean, I probably should have just even edited this stuff or whatever. It was just not doing what it needed to do. It was just, it blended in with the background and it just kind of was not working. So I pretty quickly, that's the thing, like, if you're going down a path and it's not working, stop. That sounds like really, it took me a long time to figure that out. So I think if things were going wrong, I would think I am not trying hard enough or something. The art making needed to be painful, and you just kind of had to like, you could just bear it, just toughen yourself through it, or whatever. But just change your course. tried to. The video is so shaky. It looks like really bad, but maybe at some point I'll be able to afford a camera. I shot this all on my iPhone with I have a overhead tripod. Anyway, well, thank you all for being here, and there'll be more to come.